So just recently I hit level 60 on my priest in classic WoW, and I wasted no time in looking for opportunities to start making gold using this new character, particularly in ways that I wasn't able to do with my warrior. Now obviously because I've just hit level 60, this meant that I had practically no gear, and I was also spec'd into healer spec for raids. So I was looking for something with a very low barrier to entry, and that led me to going to Maul North. Now obviously Maul North is most regularly done as a group to do tribute runs to get the runs completed so that you have access to the buffs for doing your raids. However, people often forget that the bosses that you skip are bosses in themselves, and the first one in here is actually soloable by priests. Now I imagine it's also soloable by most classes that have decent range damage, but this guide is going to focus on how I elected to do it with my priest. So straight off the bat, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for this patrol that is in front of us to basically get out of the way. Now this can take some time, so do be patient. Now when it comes to dealing with this patrol, there's a few different methods that you can use, including ignoring it altogether. However, I like to go the ultra safe route, so what I do is I wait for this patrol to patrol its way into the pack of 2 mobs that are next to it. All of these mobs, for the record, both the patrol and those 2 mobs in that pack, are always going to be melee only mobs, which is why this is the safest route. What I do is I mind control the patrol right next to the other 2 mobs so that they aggro onto him, and then I simply allow them to kill him for me. If I'm feeling particularly brave, I will cancel the mind control right before the mob dies, so when he has like 100 HP or so, cast one wand cast or maybe a shadow word pain, let it get the kill, so then I'm able to get loot from this mob, which is going to be valuable to me. Or if I'm not feeling particularly brave, I'll just allow the mob to die. Once the mob has died, the other 2 mobs in question will aggro onto you. Now at this point, you actually have 2 different options as to what you want to do. You can either play the ultra safe route and run out of the dungeon to reset aggro on the mobs, or you can come back to the wall that is opposite you when you enter the dungeon. Now this wall is able to be jumped upon, and this particular section of the wall is actually going to act as sort of a route that the mobs have to take, much like you'll see in many of the mage farms that you'll have watched before, I'm sure, where when you are on top of the ledge, the mobs have to run the whole way around to get access to the ledge, where they will then pursue you, and when they get vaguely nearby, what you do is you simply jump off of the ledge, and then they have to go the whole way back the way that they came to try and get to you. This means that you're able to dot up and wand these mobs while they are running around to kill them without ever taking a hit. Now, because I am doing this as a incredibly undergeared priest who is full healer spec, I'm basically reduced to shadow word pain and wanding. This I found is the best balance of mana efficiency and damage on these mobs, although from time to time, if I'm in the right position, I can get smites off without them either leaving line of sight or leaving my range. This is obviously going to improve the rate at which I am able to kill the mobs, but I tend to go slow and steady with this character because, quite frankly, if you are in the same position as me with a priest who's full healer spec and low gear, you're not going to be doing anything particularly fast anyway. This is more a safe and efficient gold farm than one that's going to be done very quickly. So when you've killed these mobs, what I like to do next is I like to progress onto the next pack of 2 ogres. I will get myself up onto the ledge and mind soothe both of them, just meaning that I can get extra close to get the mind control off without risking pulling them before the mind control cast is complete. Now, what I like to do is I like to mind control the Mage Lord, because he is the one that is more dangerous when you are fighting them on the ledge, as he has ranged attacks, so you do need to rely more on line of sight than simply the pathing that the ledge provides. So what I do here is, much as I described before, I'll have the 2 mobs fight each other, but this one I'm fairly confident in most of the time, so I will tend to always end the mind control right before the mob dies. Sometimes I mess it up and the mob does die, however, it is my preference if you can get the last hit on that mob yourself, just like you see me do here, so then you get the loot from it. Then what I'll do is I will continue to fight the melee mob until it is dead. Hopefully you've got it nice and low with the Mage Lord mob, but using the exact same trick before, jumping up and down off of the ledge, I will proceed to kill that mob. Now, as much as being a holy priest compared to a shadow priest doing this farm, so far I have been at a disadvantage due to my low damage output. I am now actually going to get to a point where being a holy priest is a slight advantage over being a shadow priest. So the next packs that you're going to see are going to be an assortment of small, normal, non-elite critters. Well, I shouldn't say critters, they're not technically critters, I think they're beasts, but the point is that they are numerous and they are relatively weak, in the sense at least of their HP and your capacity to kill them. They do still hurt quite substantially, and especially since all the mobs are linked and you have to pull them in a large pack, they can do a lot of damage to you and kill you if you aren't paying attention or don't follow the proper practice in how to go about killing them. So what I like to do is make sure I've got my inner fire on, and I have all of my buffs of course, and then I pre-shield before running into the pack of mobs. Now, once I'm into the pack of mobs and I've got all of them in melee range, I just start spamming my Holy Nova. Now, this is one part of the farm where I'm debating whether or not I'm doing it correctly, simply because while I know that the strategy is correct, I haven't actually yet been fully able to find what the information is regarding the spell power coefficient of Holy Nova. I know it's quite low, but when I've tried to find the information, I've got anywhere from 5 to 20% being reported to me for the spell power that you get on your Holy Nova's damage from your gear. Now, when it comes to gear for this, like I've said, the requirement is really low, but I would say that intellect is going to be key over spell power, because simply no matter how much you get from your spell power on your Holy Nova, being able to cast an extra Holy Nova is going to be the better way to go. The only way this wouldn't be the case is if your survivability is so low that you die, therefore you are able to get off these Holy Novas, in which case you're going to want stamina. But of course, any gear that you're going to be getting as a caster when you are progressing as your character is going to have intellect and stamina on it pretty much all of the time anyway. So if you can't do this for any reason, then just go and get a bit more gear, but quite frankly I think anyone's going to be able to do this straight from dinging level 60. The only pieces of gear I have are the tier 1 belt that I was lucky enough to be given, and my benediction staff that I got from my first Molten Core run. Other than that, I'm pretty much all in greens. This is nothing spectacular whatsoever, and I'm still able to just charge into these mobs and Holy Nova and get them all down. There are, I do believe, 4 packs of these mobs that you're going to kill, and once you've killed them, all you're going to do is loot them and move on to the next packs. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is start taking out the hyenas using the method we're actually going to use for killing the boss. Now, the first thing I want to mention is the ledges that we've been using so far. Now, the ledge that we've been using so far has acted as a ramp that the mobs have been able to get onto were they willing to run a long way around. Now, after the gap in the wall that you see here, if you were to go up onto the ledge where the pillar is, that is actually a reset spot. The entirety of that ledge will cause mobs to evade and reset. So from this point on, if you're ever doing this farm and anything goes wrong and you think you might die, just jump straight up onto that ledge, reset the mobs and start again. Anything is better than dying, so resetting the mobs, while it's not ideal, is better than death. I think that should be fairly self-explanatory. However, what we're actually going to use for our little mechanic to work just like we did with the ledge before is simply going to be this rock that you have in the courtyard and the dip in the pathway that we've been walking around so far. Now, jumping between these two locations is actually going to have the same effect as the ledge did before. So the hyenas that we need to kill are non-elite and die reasonably easily. So what you're going to do is you're going to go down onto the rock to get them pulled. You're going to dot them up with your Shadow Word Pains and jump back up onto the pathway, at which point they will run around through the centre of the courtyard, up the nearby ramp, and then around towards you, and then of course when you've got them as far as you'd like them to be before you want them to go back the other way, simply jump again from the pathway onto the rock. You're going to continue this process, dotting up the mobs as best you can in terms of your mana regen, and trying to keep the mobs dying relatively evenly so that you're still able to loot them. And then you're going to eventually clear out that pack of hyenas. One thing that is worth noting, however, is that if you allow these mobs to go up that ramp, if you get unfortunate in terms of their timings with the pathings of the boss, it's very easy when you're killing this pack of hyenas to also pull the boss. In this situation, what I like to do, if you're feeling ambitious, you can just kill all the hyenas and then just continue with the same pull and do the exact same technique with the boss, and it will eventually die. Personally, I just like to reset using the ledge that I mentioned before, and then I go and loot my hyenas, and then go back to killing the boss on the next pull. If that is the way that you do it when it comes to pulling the boss, you are going to have to move around the pathway that we've been travelling around so far, go down the ramp, stay at max range, pull with your preferred pulling method, the boss that is located at the bottom of the ramp, run the whole way back around to the same spot we've been using for the hyenas, and then start the process exactly the same as you would have done with the hyenas. There is another patrol that you need to worry about, which is an ogre with 2 hyenas that patrols around the bottom of that ramp that you can again pull using the same problems that you did with the boss. However, it is worth mentioning that that patrol has a very large patrol radius, so chances are you won't even see him, and if you do, it's only going to be the once, and it's quite easy when you've only got the boss mob to keep him standing roughly where you want him to be until that patrol passes, simply by jumping back and forth repeatedly from the 2 locations. Now, you can use this location to do as much as you want in terms of the mobs that are here, providing that the mobs do not have ranged attacks. If you pull any ogres that have ranged attacks, they will simply cast their spells at you regardless of where you're stood. But if you can find packs to pull, you can continue using this technique until every melee that you are able to pull is dead. If you find a pack that you want to kill that is capable of killing you from range, if it only has the 1 range character, you can of course mind control it and get that character killed by the other mobs before coming back here. Your limitation's pretty much going to come when it comes to the fact that there will be points where the mobs are so far away you can't get back here before they're dead, at which point the run is done. However, what we're really here for is this first boss. Once he's dead, he can drop quite an array of items, including a pair of cloth wrists that if you are under gear like myself, you may actually want to be equipping. They're not bad at all. But really what we're after is whatever he drops is going to be good for either selling to the vendor or disenchanting if you are an enchanter. They can vary anywhere from about 2 gold in value to about 7 or 8 gold in value, depending on your realm and the value of materials and what access to professions you have for those items, for example. But what we're really getting the gold for in this farm isn't actually the drop from him, it's actually all of the grey items. That's where our most reliable gold comes from in this farm, because the grey items that drop from these mobs actually sell for a rather large amount. So from the hyenas you can get these Gordok chew toys that sell for about 25 silver each to the vendor, and all of the items, all of the petals and things that you got from the plants we killed before, a stack of them regularly sells for about 30 silver as well. So while this isn't a fast farm and it's not going to have the highest gold returns of any farm that you've seen on a YouTube video, it is going to be doable by any priest that is at max level. And when you're a healer priest, any gold farm that you're capable of actually doing is going to be quite good for you, because obviously they aren't really designed for it. They don't have the damage output, so any gold returns that you can get from any farm is going to be good for you. But that's going to about do it for this video, guys. I do hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do let me know down below. And if you have any questions on this farm or anything else, please do let me know down in the comment section below. But for now, guys, thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Later.